And we're back. Going back, that was footage from Simeon's speech options, and I'd like to take this time to thank them right now for letting us use that footage. Going back to the three types of long-term rehabilitation, gentlemen, there was the artificial larynx, which the electroneck device, which we saw demonstrated in the film, and a mouth, which I'm sorry, what?
Don Lindo.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cooper end.
The Cooper end, yes.
Right.
And pneumatic devices. Now, how do these work? I mean, what are the specifics as far as how these devices operate?
Well, I can tell you about the Cooper end.
Okay. Yeah.
The Cooper end is battery operated, and all it is it's a 9-volt battery. It works through vibration.
Oh, okay.
So it's all vibration. So it just gives you the ability to be able to communicate most effectively very early in your procedure.
Now, is that just used as far as articulating the mouth, just mouthing the words, or is there any?
No, that's all it is. In fact, I can't voice without my device here.
Okay.
This is used in lieu of TNP or electrolarynx.
Oh, okay, I understand. The next one would be esophageal speech, which I believe you gentlemen do use right now.
No, esophageal speech is when they can sort of burp up
Oh, right, okay.
the words, and that's very difficult. Obviously, none of us have achieved that.
Oh, okay. And the third that I've touched on, tracheal esophageal puncture. Now, could you guys elaborate on that?
Right, yeah, what it is when they do the operation and they remove the vocal cords, then they separate the esophagus and the lungs. So what they do is they then put a puncture between that and put a very small device in there, which is used to force air up through your mouth, just as if you had vocal cords.
Oh,
The air comes up through the lungs, goes through a little valve that's in your throat, pushes it through the esophagus, and then out the mouth. And that's how I'm talking now. All three of us are talking that way.
Oh, okay. Now, just in general, now there are some other procedures or other devices that are used, maybe not so mainstream as these three, but
Those are pretty much it for the vast majority.
vast majority.
Yeah, I think the pneumatic device you were talking about was a very early, many years ago.
Oh, okay.
And it's used in Japan, mostly.
Oh. Okay, now how long is the process of learning any of these devices?
Well, I'll tell you, the process of learning, I spoke with the Cooper end immediately. Mm-hmm. And it was just a matter of adjusting the volume and the pitch and that. And when I had my TEP, my puncture, after my procedure, the minute the prosthesis was put in, I voiced immediately.
He's the exception to the rule. Most of us take a week or two before we can get voicing out so that people can understand us.
Okay.
Well, I think the real key is that you're speaking with your diaphragm. Whereas with vocal cords, you're able to control the air and use your lungs more.
Okay, now as far as choosing one of these methods, which, based on your personal experiences and that of the people that you deal with in your support group, which one of these is the most effective or maybe most popular methods?
I would say hands down, it's the puncture.
Puncture, right?
Oh, I agree. Now, I did speak with a mechanical device for 8 years. And with the help of this support group, my friend Bob Kelly and my family members encouraged me to go ahead and proceed with the TEP procedure, which I'm so thankful I did. I did do that. I wished I'd have done it a long time ago.
Well, I got to ask now, I guess it kind of goes without saying, but how has the surgery changed your life? Not just yours, but the people, nearest and dearest to you, friends and family.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you talk to somebody now, they listen. You have a very distinct voice now, but his, changing lifestyle is, my life has gone on as it did prior to my procedure. We do have situations like with laryngectomy. It's very common that when the general populace hears one of us communicate, for some reason they have reason to believe that we're also hard of hearing. And that's not true, because they tend to elevate their voice and talk louder because of the way we communicate. They have reason to believe that we can't hear either. Okay, so, and that's not true.
Sometimes.
Actually, that was a funny story. When I was, before I had the puncture and I was using the electrolarynx, I went to a pharmacy and the pharmacist listened to me talking with the electrolarynx and he tried to sign back to me. So again, people have strange reactions.
For some of us, there are situations that we all face on the phone. Sometimes it's difficult for people to clearly understand us over the phone lines. When you're in a crowded restaurant with a lot of noise in the background, it's hard for people to understand. But other than that, you normally figure out ways to make yourself understood in those situations.
So you don't go
Well, yeah, and I knew that I was actually getting better when my wife said, "Don't yell at me."
So going into that a little bit more now, how would you say your family and your friends have dealt with the procedure, or you guys rehabbing from the procedure?
I think my family, very, very supportive all along, but they take it more for granted now. Same thing with my friends. They don't make any notice of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think the real thing is when you first come home from the hospital, it's a very scary situation because it's so brand new and different.
So I guess now going from the house, family, we're going to go outside now. What obstacles would you say you've had to overcome out in society, just interacting with other people that aren't friends and family?
Well, I would say in social situations, when you're with people who have more normal voices, that if they take over the conversation with loud voices, you can't really do that. And so that's an adjustment, is you need to be able to sort of lay back a little bit and wait.
As far as getting back in to the work world, all three of us have full-time jobs. And for me, it's back to what I always did. Love traveling. So that's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I think also when we first, part of the rehabilitation process, they tell you that, you're going to need humidification and all these various things, and I think all of us have not found that to be a big issue.
So really, again, the only detriment I see with the outside world is in a group socially that if there's a lot of background noise, you can't really communicate very effectively. Okay, so I usually look for a quiet table in the restaurant, okay, or a little quieter environment.
Most of us belong to local clubs. Those are people that have been there, done that. So we learn from them all the tricks of the trade.
Okay.
The faster we can learn, the faster we get back in to day-to-day life. Yes, it was.
Yeah, and I would say also that, there were some adjustments to eating because you no longer have the natural esophageal muscle to be able to push the food down as effectively. And so you need to take a lot more liquids in eating, and you can't really talk while eating, which your mother told you not to do any of.
Okay. I guess the next thing I'd have to ask, what kinds of, if any, discriminations have either you or maybe the people that you deal with in the support group have come across?
I've had no discrimination in my history. Other than people treating me as though I'm deaf. But other than that, I haven't had a problem.
Once in a while you find people that don't have patience with you, but you just sort of shrug that off.
Yeah. Well, I guess the next thing I'd have to ask is, what would you like to let the public know as far as the procedure of laryngectomy? Just the overall procedure, if you had to summarize from beginning to end. I guess there really isn't an end because it's probably a constant, adaptation just out in society as a whole. But what would you want to get across to them, just to, wipe out any ignorance that might be out there?
Stick with it and educate yourself as much as possible, as quickly as possible.
I think just having a positive attitude, is probably a big percentage of your recovery, and wanting to go on and live life and carry on as you did prior to your procedure.
Well, I think I would tell them that, when you first find out you have to have the operation, it's pretty scary. And the operation itself has now become fairly straightforward for the doctors that do it often. And there's it's a little uncomfortable right afterwards, but in a fairly short period of time, you're back to normal.
Now, I understand that, once again, I'm going to go all the way back. You guys represent an organization called the Foundation for Voice Restoration. Would you guys care to give a little insight on that?
Well, that's founded by Doctors Mark Singer and Carla Gress, UCSF, and it's dedicated to educating both laryngectomies, speech pathologists, and also conduct research to make our lives a lot easier.
Any more insight that you guys care to?
Well, we're always looking for help, contributions, whatever, through the Voice Foundation. And we look forward to working with other groups that we can help out, and they can help us.
Yeah, I think the real thing about this foundation is it's the two probably most prominent people in this area in the world, which happen to be right here. And so that's very nice to have that expertise available, and they really are good about helping everyone.